Hello, Talking Fight fans. Welcome once again to another episode of Neil the Deal, featuring Neil the Deal himself and our ongoing exploration of the Americas, various cities, countries, territories, regions that have produced great fighters over the years. And we've spanned many decades in our exploration of the Americas, by the way. Tonight, we're going to take a look at Philadelphia. What do you got for us, Neil?
Hey, good evening, Graham. Thanks for having me out tonight. Hello, guys. All you Talking Fight fans, Neil the Deal Show fans, thanks for coming out tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Graham, so we're going to talk a little bit about, like you had said, fighters around the Americas, all right? So we have just recently talked about the five guys I felt that were the big five, say, of Detroit, out of the Motor City. So we know who those guys are. You guys can go back. Obviously, there's Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Floyd Mayweather, right? Tommy Hearns. So there's a whole bunch of guys out of Detroit that Hilmer Kenty, right? So you look at those guys, check it out, talk amongst your buddies or whatever, and guys, check it out. So we're gonna move from Detroit now. We're moving into Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, primarily in Philadelphia. Graham, we all know a lot of fighters out of Philly, correct? Growing up, we all know that it's a fighting town. Even Rocky said that in the movie, didn't he?
He did.
Exactly. Basically, glorified Philadelphia is the place to be if you're a boxer, I guess. The life story of Chuck Wepner, as we talked about on an earlier episode. But yeah, so we're going to talk, guys, tonight about the five. Well, we'll talk about one. So we'll do one a day. We'll see how it goes. We've already done a bunch. All right. So let's just recap what we've done and what we're going to do moving forward as far as these fighters in Philly. So I'm going to go through a list of guys that were big-time Philly fighters, the ones that I felt, were on the list. I had to determine what five were going to be on that list. So let's just go through the list of guys that I feel from Philadelphia made their mark in boxing, were amazing at their craft, and I watched them all at one time or another, be it like old videos, old stuff, whatever it may be. But these guys were a lot of them I had never heard of, Graham. So I spent today looking at some of these guys and crazy stuff, man. You know what I mean? So let's go through the list. We're going to start at the top. Basically, I feel the best boxer ever of all time out of Philly would be, just my personal opinion for me, would be Bernard Hopkins.
Right.
I mean, that's disputable, but Bernard Hopkins did a lot of things in many weight classes, in many divisions. He won multiple titles. We grew up in jail. He was a boxer in jail. You look at that guy's life story. He's a hell of a fighter. Like, over his career, it's unbelievable. So I got Hopkins there, Philly fighter number one. Moving down the list, we got Joe Frazier, Smoking Joe. Obviously, we all know Smoking Joe. The Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes, comes in around third. We have another guy here, a world champion, ex-world champion, Bernie Briscoe. Don't know if you guys have ever heard of Bernie Briscoe, but he was a hell of a champion of his day. Then we go to Jersey Joe Walcott, one of my faves. Then we move on to a big name that we probably all know, Sonny Liston, from the Philadelphia area. Then we move up into newer guys like Meldrick Taylor, Philadelphia. Danny Garcia. All right, Danny Garcia is a serious cat there. Bert Cooper, we talked about smoking Bert Cooper, with the Willie DeWitt thing back in an earlier episode. Tim Witherspoon, I don't know if you guys remember him. He was a WBA heavyweight champion of the world for, I believe, a couple of times, not very long, but he's a good fighter, Witherspoon. Matthew Saad Mohammed, another great fighter out of Philly. Dwight Muhammad Cowie, we talked about him in an earlier episode, Graham. And then a couple of guys that I hadn't really heard of, but I checked them out today. A guy named Tommy Logran or something. Laughran, Logran. He is a light heavyweight champion out of Philly back in the day, Longren. And apparently he's right at the top of the list. And another guy that was interesting, guys that I checked out. Now, he never won a title, Graham, but apparently he's like one of the best fighters out of Philly. I've never heard of him, but I checked him out today. His name was Lou Tendler. It was like 1898. He was born in 1898 or something, and he lived until 1970. And they ranked him, surprisingly enough, without winning a title, they ranked him the number 10 best light heavyweight in the world, like all time. but he never won the title. He had a couple of shots, but he didn't win the title. So it was interesting checking him out, learning a little bit more about him. And I was thinking of talking about him, but I think we're going to talk about a guy, I thought about it this afternoon, and this guy needs to be on that list. So, Graham, we're going to talk about Jersey Joe Walcott tonight out of Philly. All right?
Cool. Awesome.
You've heard of him? I guess you've heard of him, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's, he was before my time, but I remember my dad talking about him, how good he was. And he had some memorable fights, like big ones. Joe Louis, he fought Joe Louis. He fought a bunch of guys that were like of their era, the big, like Rocky Marciano. He fought him, He literally he fought the biggest and the best of his time. So let's just go over his stats, his a little bit about his life and what he was up to. So he was not born Jersey Joe Walcott. He was born Arnold Raymond Cream. That's cream, Cream, the stuff you put in your coffee. So I would have never known. How do you get Jersey Joe Walcott out of Arnold Raymond Cream? Well, I'll tell you how it happened. So he had a boyhood idol, a boxing idol, and his name was Joe Walcott. So his idol as a kid was Joe Walcott. So because he's from Jersey, he just called himself Jersey Joe Walcott. And that's how he got his name. That's pretty, you know what I mean? Like, how do you pick your name? That's how he did it. It's pretty interesting. So crazy stuff, eh? Like, I never knew that. Like, So anyways, guys, let's just go through a bunch of his stuff here. He was born January 31st, 1914. All right. In Pennsauken, New Jersey. Then he moved to, I understand he moved to Camden, New Jersey later on in his life. And he died February 25th, 1994 in Camden, New Jersey. So he won the world heavyweight title in 1951, and he lost the title in 1952. So he didn't hold the title for very long, and it took him a long time to actually get the title shot, I believe. Well, at the time of winning the title, Graham, he was the oldest heavyweight to ever win the world heavyweight championship title. He was 37 years old, right? And at that time, that was the oldest guy. Now, that record was beat by one other heavyweight individual. And I'm going to ask you, Graham, you got any idea who that might be?
Is it from the modern era?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like a Larry Holmes kind of guy?
Ish.
George Foreman?
Bingo. Good guess, Graham. That's the guy. George Foreman won the heavyweight world championship title when he was 45. And I believe that was against Michael Moore, if I do remember correctly. So he was 45 years old. So until Foreman won the title at 45, Jersey Joe Walcott was the oldest man to ever hold the heavyweight world championship title. So just an interesting little tidbit about that. He was one of 11 brothers and sisters, all right? So he had a big family, and just, he basically had to fight to put food on the table, apparently. I mean, when you have 11 kids and stuff, your dad works in a factory and your mom's kind of washing clothes for a living, I guess, or whatever. There's not a lot of opportunity, right? So his dad worked in a soup factory or something, you know what I mean? It was like, and 15 years old, he took up boxing. That's what he decided. He just take up boxing, and then he was watching this individual. The Joe Walcott, the boxer, was out of the Barbados, Graham. Joe Walcott. So if we look up Joe Walcott out of the Barbados, I'd be interested to see actually who that guy is, right? It was his idol, so it's something I was planning on doing today, but we got a little busier. So anyways, we're going to go over his pro. We're going to go over his pro stats right here, right now. So he had a pretty big career. So he had 71 fights total, Graham, 71. 51 wins, 13 losses, 2 draws. He had 32 knockouts out of the 51 wins. That gives him a knockout percentage of 44%. So he wasn't too bad in the knockout percentage range. He was almost at the 50, but he can't win them all like that. So, but he obviously won the majority of his fights. So, I'm sorry. I believe he lost 18, Graham, not 13. If I said 13, it's 18. So he turned pro September 1930. And it took him 17 years, Graham, to get a title shot. and he fought Joe Louis for the title December 5th, 1947. And he was at that time even the oldest guy to fight for the title. He was 33 years old. Right? So he lost a 15-round split decision. Very controversial. Graham, if you watch that fight, the first one between Jersey Joe and Joe Louis, apparently most of the people that saw the fight or were at the fight or whatever at that time said that he got robbed and he won the fight. So it was just back in those days, Graham, there was a lot of stuff going on, as we all know, in the back rooms and the under the ground and whatever you want to call it and stuff. There was a lot of, so who knows what was going on, right? But apparently he won the fight and he lost the fight. So they I guess that's what happened. So the other thing that was interesting, so they had a rematch in 1948 and he lost again. He got knocked out in the 11th round. So split decision the first one, knocked out second one, and then he didn't get a title. He didn't get a chance for a few more years. But the thing that was interesting too about that fight, Graham, the first one, I believe, the bout was the first closed circuit television broadcast distributed for TV theater, for the television. First time that's ever happened in the history of, so CCTV, I guess they call it, right? Closed circuit television. First match ever, closed circuit. Joe Louis, like who knew, right? It's kind of interesting. So then he fought a guy we talked about earlier on, Ezra Charles, right? You remember that one, Graham? Ezra Charles?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he won the title from Ezra Charles in a 15-round. He got a 15-round decision. He finally won the title, but then he lost the title. He lost the first one in a 15-round decision, and then he KO'd Charles in the second match. All right, which was 3 months after the first one. So the first one was May 7th, 51, and the second was July 18th, 51. So he finally won the title, and that was actually his fifth try at winning the title. You know what I mean, Graham? He had fought 4 times before that for the title and lost all 4, and finally won the one. But then, like I said, he only defended it once, and then he ran into Rocky Marciano. And then that's, he basically, Walcott was ahead in the fight. It's crazy. That was the fight that I was watching today, was Marciano Walcott. So because it says Walcott was winning the fight, and here's another one, a Marciano fight that's kind of like, but in the end, Marciano wins. You know what I mean? So for 12 rounds, he basically was beating Marciano, Graham. Like, he won at least 9 of the rounds that I watched. Easy.
Wow.
But then, of course, in the 13th round, out comes Rocky Marciano with that signature punch to the head that just basically puts you into the third row. And that was it. It was like I believe it was considered one of the hardest punches or something of all time. Again, like it was like, because Walcott was winning the fight so easily. And then all of a sudden, he got knocked down. I seen it. He fell against the ropes. He tried to get up, and he was just still like real woozy. So they just called it right there. So they had a rematch May 15th, 1953, and he lost again to Marciano. First round knockout, crushed. One, and that was it. He retired after that fight. That was his last fight. He got knocked out in the first round by Rocky Marciano and decided, all right, I guess this is enough for me. What are you going to do, right? So anyways, it's a great career with the guy. I really, checking out those fights today were really fun, to be honest with you. So in his retirement, guys, he was pretty cool. Like, he did a bunch of really cool stuff that I was like, wow, that's really cool. So he started doing like acting. Of course, they all get into little small acting roles and TV roles. And then, interesting enough, he became a referee. Well, I guess they appointed him as referee. And he was the ref between Ali and Liston fight. I kind of remember this because my dad mentioned this. And it was a very controversial job that he did in that fight. And he kind of botched it, Graham. If you watch the Liston Ali fight, he kind of botched it, right? So then they just basically told him he's not reffing any more fights after that. He got fired for life. he just got fired. He was like, because if you watch the fight, it is, I don't want to say anything, guys, but just go check it out yourself. It's Ali Liston with Jersey Joe reffing the thing, right? So so then I guess that just didn't work out, Graham. So he decided he went back to Camden, and between 71 and 74, he was the Camden County Sheriff of the county, first African American sheriff in New Jersey history. So, which was an interesting thought. And then 75 to 84, he became the chairman of the New Jersey State Athletic Commission. So he's like the one that's, funny enough, he went from refereeing and now he's sanctioning the fights and hiring the referees. You know what I mean? So he is the commission. There you go. So I guess he got back at them for firing him for being a ref. Now he's took everybody's job and now he's the big boss. So that was it, right? So he did that. Funny enough, too, I thought this was kind of a joke. Apparently in 1963, he decided he wanted to try pro wrestling. And he fought an old wrestler that I remember my mom used to talk about, this guy, and his name was Lou Thez. You ever heard of him, Graham? Lou Thez?
That one does not ring a bell.
He's like Gorgeous George. You remember that guy? Like,
yes.
Like this is, you know what I mean? Like 1950s wrestling of Billy Red Lions, Maple Leaf Wrestling, like just crazy stuff, right? Anyway, this Lou Thez guy, I remember him, he was a big bruiser, and anyway, he lost. So wrestling wasn't for him. He said, "Forget that. I'll just run the cop shop and then become the state commissioner. It's fine." Right? So he was inducted into the New Jersey Hall of Fame in 2013. And he was also inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I believe it was in 1984, but I'm not 100% sure. But he's definitely in there. So notable quick fights, Graham. Guys, thanks a lot for everything. The likes, the shares, everything. Thanks for coming out tonight. And we'll just go through these quick notable fights and get you back watching whatever you're doing over there. All right. So notable fights. Jersey Joe Walcott versus Marciano 1 and 2. Check them out. That one with, right? Crazy. Anyways, Walcott, Ezra Charles, guys. Sorry, Ezra Charles. He fought him 4 times, Graham. They fought 4 times. So I think Ezra Charles won 3 and Walcott won 1, and that's the guy that he actually won the title from. So that was it. And then Walcott and Joe Louis. I figured, you guys would like to see that one. It's a really good fight. Very he won that fight. He should have won the title that year, 51. But he had to wait a little while to finally win it. So thanks a lot, all you guys out there, to the Jersey Joe Walcott family. If you're watching out there, rest in peace there, Joe. Thanks a lot for a blazing career. Wicked. And, hey, you go down in history as one of the best of all time, and especially out of the Philadelphia area. So you got to thank those Philly fighters. They're bringing them up from what? All the time you guys are coming in with new fighters. It's Philly. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do over there, right, Graham?
It's an awful lot of gyms right now operating in Philadelphia, producing a lot of great fighters, for sure. For sure. And by the way, let's add a little bit of history footnote to this. Jersey Joe Walcott took his name from Barbados Joe Walcott, who passed away in 1935. But he had the name Barbados Joe Walcott because there was already another Joe Walcott fighting who was from Guyana. So,
wow.
but Barbados Joe Walcott was actually the first, I think he was fighting the welterweight. Yeah, so he was the first black man to capture the World Welterweight Championship. Yeah, like 1901, I believe. So the guy goes way, way back. So he must have been a huge hero for Jersey Joe Walcott and an inspiration. And that's why. So there you go.
That's awesome, man. Right on. Thanks a lot. That's really cool. That's just gives us a little more insight on how he ended up becoming Jersey Joe Walcott. I mean, like you said, he was an idol, but I didn't really know who this Joe Walcott from Barbados was. But that's really neat. How that kind of played on for more than just that. It was really a nice story. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure the Joe Walcott the first, I guess, would be pretty proud to say that, a guy from, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia is going to decide to use his name and then just, have a great career with it, right? So it's pretty cool stuff.
I haven't checked this out, but is Jersey Joe Walcott actually from Philadelphia, or is he actually from Jersey? Because New
No,
Jersey,
he's from
where's he born?
Talkin, New Jersey,
Oh,
right?
so he's actually from Jersey. Oh, okay.
Right. So it was
So he'd have to drive
Pensauken,
across.
Pennsaukon, but then he moved to Camden. But
That's North
he was
Jersey.
always known as a fighter out of Philly, right? I mean, Philly and Jersey, I guess they go hand in hand. I guess maybe we'll get some backflash about that. I don't know, but he's under the same Philly boxers, and like he's considered a Philadelphia boxer for whatever reason, you know. So
A little sidebar. Basically, Philadelphia is across the river from New Jersey, and on the other side in New Jersey, there's a small town just a few miles away from that particular bridge I'm thinking of. It's called Cherry Hill, and in Cherry Hill is where you might have heard of Cherry Hill because of NFL films, and I don't know if they're still there. But Cherry Hill became quite famous for holding the studio where NFL Films produced all their great moments of NFL history. It has nothing to do with boxing, with the exception maybe of a few sons of famous boxers who played in the NFL. But anyway, just thought I'd let you know that New Jersey borders Philadelphia, and you cross the bridge into Philly. And if you go backwards into New Jersey, South Jersey, you'll come across a relatively small town of Cherry Hill. And in that small town of Cherry Hill, you'll find NFL. Well, I don't know if it's still there. We'd have to Google that. But there's a little bit of history for you. And maybe an hour up the road is Camden in North Jersey.
cool, interesting, man. Yeah, see, I've never been down that way myself, so I like that. I like geography. I like history. That's what I love boxing, the history of boxing, the history of sports.
Yeah,
I like all kinds of. I like all kinds of history. So, anyways, guys, yeah, that's really interesting stuff. And I want to thank you again for coming out, watching the show tonight. I want to say hi to a couple of my friends. Amanda, I hope you're having a good day. The guys up north, I hear you're digging out. I talked to a friend of mine, Graham, today. He said the snow was up to his waist.
Wow.
Like literally, as like he's got mega snow. He's about, I don't know, 4 hours from here, 5 hours north, right? And he said it's just he's having a hard time even with a snow machine. So there's a lot of snow, man. So we're dealing with that, but everything's cool. It's not too bad. We're getting ready to watch the Leafs tonight, eh, Graham? Let's hope we
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
a little better performance this evening. So, but thanks, guys, for coming out for the Jersey Joe Walcott. We're going to talk a little bit tomorrow more about some Philly fighters. We got one left in the 5. So, like I said, if you guys want to go back and check out any of these other Philly fighters, we did episodes on them already. They would be Joe Louis, Thomas Hearns, and Joe Fraser, right? So we did those. Today we did Jersey Joe Walcott, and tomorrow we got another surprise for you to top out the top 5, and then we'll see you then. Stay warm, stay safe. Thanks a lot. And guys, cheers. Have a good evening, Graham. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Let me just clarify. Camden's across the river from Philadelphia. Sorry. You don't have to go into North Jersey and South Jersey. Camden's right across the river. That's where it is. It's anyway, there's several bridges out of Philadelphia, and Camden is right across the river. That's probably why I'll bet he went to gyms in Philadelphia, trained in Philadelphia. I'm guessing now, but
like I say,
good point for our viewers to send in some comments, because I'm not kidding. Like Camden's here, across the river. There's Philadelphia. So,
right.
and as I say, it'd be interesting to see whether he trained in Philadelphia or trained in Camden and just simply became known. Kind of like if you're from, Ajax or Pickering, and all of a sudden you say, well, I'm actually from someone who's from another part of the world. You say, well, I'm from Toronto, because you know Toronto, but you might not know Ajax or Pickering. So maybe he was telling everyone he's from Philadelphia because that's the huge city compared to, say, Camden. I don't know.
I'm just assuming that Camden is like a Mississauga to Toronto type of thing. I think out the outskirts of some kind of the big city.
Yeah, it's literally across the river.
Anyway. No, cool. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the guys. I mean, people in that region. I guess I've always heard they kind of go back and forth because it's pretty close. It's pretty close, like Jersey to Philly. You know what I mean? You can go over those bridges and you're you're there,
You're in, well,
50, 20 minutes over the bridge.
you're
I
in
don't
two
know.
different you're in two different states.
Yeah, over the bridge is yeah, you're in one state and then over the bridge is the other state, right?
Anyway, so yeah, so we got some more fighters from Philadelphia to highlight and showcase.
Yeah.
And yeah, if the viewers out there scroll back a few episodes, you'll find Ezra Charles and quite a few other episodes on the Americas. And because we've been highlighting quite a few prominent, well-known, great fighters from the Americas, North, South, and Central America.
Absolutely. We're gonna keep her rocking. We're gonna do a few other cities, Graham, right?
I hope so.
We're gonna go right through the Americas and see what we can find.
As a matter of fact, tomorrow night on the Friday night panel, we have Montel Griffin as our guest, and he's actually from Chicago. And he had the pleasure of fighting Roy Jones Jr. in his career, and Tommy. Anyway, so we're going to talk about his career as a professional, and more importantly, talk about what he's doing right now in Chicago, and that is giving back to community. He runs quite a few gyms for youth, and keeping them involved, keeping them active, and showing them the relevancy of boxing. So yeah, as you and I continue spread our wings and investigate and evaluate and analyze all these different regions, we're going to find a lot of great fighters.
Right on. Montel Griffin, eh? I like him.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a really good fighter. I used to love watching him. And yeah, he fought Roy Jones Jr. and he fought James Toney.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know exactly who you're talking about, Mr. Griffin. Thank you very much for coming out to see us and talk and fight. Neil the Deal says hi. Loved your career, buddy. That was awesome. So yeah, Graham, that's great news that Montel's coming out to talk with us. That's awesome. That's great news, guys. So check that out tomorrow. After the Neil the Deal show, we're going to move right into Montel. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's awesome. I'll be watching for sure. Like 100%. That's awesome. So thanks a lot again, guys. Thanks a lot for everything. Like, shares, comments. If you got anything to say about this Jersey Joe Camden Philly thing, I don't know. Pensacenen or wherever he says he's from. So let us know if you guys know anything about what is the official, or if you're from Jersey, are you from Jersey or are you actually from Philly? Yes. That's the question.
You're from New Jersey. It's the state of New Jersey. So Pennsylvania is to the
a
west
separate
of New
state?
Jersey. Yep. So
New Jersey. I didn't know that. I don't know about it. These guys confuse me all the time.
So you got New York up here in the north, you got New Jersey coming down the coast there, and then you got Pennsylvania running off to the west.
Wow. All right, cool. Well, I guess he ain't from Philly then. I don't know. I guess I don't know how to explain that. He's considered a Philly fighter, so we'll consider him a Jersey Philly fighter, I guess. All right.
Well, until someone challenges us and says, "Come on, boys, knuckle up."
Maybe we'll call his family and say, "Can we change his name to a Philly Joe Walcott? Philadelphia okay. Joe Walcott."
There we go.
Once he changes his name to Philadelphia Joe Walcott, then it'll be solidified. Then we know where he's from. Exactly. Yeah, all right, man. Well, thanks again, eh? Hopefully we do well tonight. Hopefully you guys have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Amanda, again, nice to see you, honey. Talk to you again tomorrow.
Yeah, man. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Right on, guys. Thank you. Have a good evening.